Welcome to The Healthy Advisor, a podcast from WealthManagement.com focused on advisors' personal well-being and healing. I'm Diana Britton, managing editor of WealthManagement.com, and in this podcast we explore some of the struggles and personal development issues facing advisors and financial services professionals, and how to get to a place of healing for mind, body, and spirit. Hello, and welcome to the latest episode of the Healthy Advisor podcast, and thanks for joining us. As you may know, this is the podcast focused on financial advisor health and well-being, and today's guest knows a ton about this subject. His name is Dr. Preston Cherry, the founder and CEO of Concurrent Financial Planning. He's also the director of the Financial Planning Program and the Charles Schwab Foundation Center for Financial Wellness at UW Green Bay. He's also a past president of the Financial Therapy Association and has a PhD in personal financial planning. Dr. Cherry, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Diana. I appreciate it.
And yeah, I think this is going to be a great conversation. But Dr. Cherry recently wrote a book called Wealth in the Key of Life, Finding Your Financial Harmony, which is about how people can get their financial life as well as their emotional and physical life in harmony, which is a big focus for this podcast. Just, speaking about financial advisors and financial professionals in particular, getting those things in harmony for themselves. In the book, he kind of delves into his own personal story about getting his financial life in harmony with the rest of the parts of his life. And he's going to share a little bit about that personal story today. But just here's a little excerpt from the book. I graduated with a master's in personal financial planning from Texas Tech in the winter of 2006. And from 2007 to 2008, I thrived. I secured 2 career-defining positions, new money heights, and personal accomplishments. The first was a respectable high salary for my life stage, and I felt secure enough to purchase a condo. The second position was a breakthrough career position with a generous 6-figure compensation package with junior executive type benefits like signing and performance bonuses, relocation expenses, and home selling subsidies. I was in my late 20s and felt like I was progressing ahead of my expected personal life and money schedule. So Dr. Cherry, take us back to this period in your life. You're in your late 20s. Sort of on top of the world with this job, and what happens next?
With that position, I was on top of the world. I have always been someone who wants to maximize on one's opportunity. I've been given a lot as far as I think given me blessed. I always like to say faith as you define it. So everybody has a faith path. I was blessed. I have been and are blessed with great parents. And my sister and they put into us, they invested in us self-worth and self-value. I think those are compoundable assets that nobody can take away from you. And not a lot of people get that, Diana. So that to me, those are precious gifts. And I've always been one to try to maximize on my ability because it is a gift. And that to scuttle that away in any way as a disservice for those that don't have that opportunity. And being 28, 29, I had push. And I've always been an old soul, 15 going on 25, 25 going on 35, right? And now I'm 46 going on 56. I've always been an old soul. So to me, at 28, I had pushed enough to where I had made it. I had made it, and I felt like I belonged in this success. I knew I was worthy of it. I knew I worked hard for it. I knew I strived for it, and I felt that I belonged in this, and not in the company in the sense of what company I was at, just the company I kept, successful people, so to speak. And I thought I had found my tribe, and during that time, I was still searching, but did not know. And that's why the next period of life is going to come. I know we're going to talk about that, but during this time, I needed more work internally
Mm.
in order to handle that. And years later, looking back on it, just a little bit more work, I probably would have handled that situation a lot different. And lastly, I say that when that package came to me, I didn't even know a package like that could exist.
Yeah.
I wanted success and all that, but when that package came to me, it was one of those that it stapled together and came in a manila envelope with the threads, and I pulled it out and I read it, and I was like, I thought they were lying. I thought somebody was trying to Adam Kushner, or Kirshner me? What was that? Trying to trick me?
Yeah.
And I passed it around to my dad and my mom, and they were like, you know what? You may need to reach out to a mentor and see if this package is real. And
Mm.
I did so, and they said, yes, this is real, and you should take it. So yeah, it was a great part of life, but it was also a beginning of a period that, wow, it shaped me who I am now, but it wasn't easy.
Yeah. So I know that you mentioned this in the book, I believe. You kind of went through a 7 years of fog. Why did you call it that? And what did that mean exactly?
7 years of fog, yes. Excuse me. Yes, 7 years of fog. When I went through that 7 years of fog, I didn't know it was starting until I was in it. And I always say that you don't know it until you've gone through some you would put the IT on there, right?
Yeah, you can say it.
Yeah, I love getting a little curse word in there, but it really is. If you haven't gone through some shit, then you don't know what it is. You don't know what resilience is. You don't know what grace is, or grit, or even success. And you have
Hmm.
to go through it. And once you go through it, even transformation and that transition through life, when you go through it, you don't have to talk about it. You say, okay,
Mm.
yes, I know what that is. And everybody has their points, whether it be ups or downs. And that 7 year fog for me, I thought it was wasted time. And I'll get in a little bit more detail here in a minute. I give a little bit of detail in the book, but I thought that this 7 years to me was wasted. I thought it was
Mm.
wasted time, and it was killing me. I was self medicating. I was heavily drinking during that time. Um, I was really just search of self. Like I said, that old soul means something, because when you're 15 and people tell you that you're mature and you have a good head on your shoulders, and like I said, I'm blessed with gifts, like good inputs for parental value and all that. I got exhausted. I reached a pinnacle, but at 28, I was tired, and I was still searching. I was still healing, Diana, and I realize it now
Mm.
after the fact. At some point, I found out I didn't want to live like that anymore. And what's that? Constantly putting liquid medication and anything else for that matter on like a band-aid, like that was going to heal something. That said, it was a searching for deeper understanding. I was searching for a lot. And I was also searching for, I practice what I preach now, which is grace, understanding, admitting where I was in that life, both professionally and personally. Where was I at that time, and why?
Mm.
And what I was going to do about it. How was I going to show some sort of courage, which sometimes is just simply asking for help. And there was a lot of that during that time. And this is when I didn't even know that this book or this journey was being started during that time, because it was a vast disconnect of life and money. And you can tell it, because during that time, I even printed some of my statements down during that time, bank statements, and the money was just going down the drain. But to me, it made sense during that time, because the money
Mm.
was providing me some sort of healing. I thought, so, as I thought. But then I shifted toward the end and said, I can't do this anymore. And I felt that I was squandering
Mm.
the opportunity that was inside of me, and that was killing me more so than the alcohol. It was the guilt and the shame that I was like, wow, I'm throwing this opportunity down drain. And I knew I knew I was special. And I
Yeah.
know it to, I know it to this day. And to realize and to know that, I was throwing that down the drain and I could end up dead, then no, that didn't match up with me. And by grace, by family, by myself looking in the mirror, and by professional help, and by God, I was able to turn a corner and say, you know what, this is what I want to do. I've had enough of this.
Mm,
Shit. I want to go do this.
yeah.
And this is the path. And what you see now is very much intentional, of an aspirational life, of the things that I wanted to do and how I wanted to touch lives. It's very much intentional.
Yeah. I mean, so you said that you went down that path because you were looking for healing. What did you need healing from?
Yeah, and with opportunity, we grew up in the suburbs during when I came up, and it was fantastic. My parents made fantastic decisions with life. Not everything was life is not linear, by the way.
Yeah.
Folks think that on social media. It's like, oh yeah, do this every day and work hard, and then everything will be all good. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But when I was growing up, the decision to place us in the suburbs was fantastic. I mean, we got access to fantastic schools. We got the opportunity. Like I said, we thrive. We were an average middle class family, so we weren't rich, we weren't poor, but we wanted for nothing, and we were heavily invested in, which I appreciated. That said, there were some social drawbacks during that time, where some racial, there was a lot of that, although I still have friends and love for for where I came from, in the northwest side of Houston. That said, there were some real aspects. I mean, I remember in third grade, and there's microaggressions that people are not familiar with. They sometimes somebody says they don't exist, but I got several hundreds of stories of with that. And
Mm.
one of them was in third grade. I remember my third grade teacher told me I was arrogant because I knew how to write my name and read.
Okay.
You have a arrogant young boy. He thinks he's special. That's a microaggression.
Yeah.
For know your place, so to speak. And that's a whole nother show. But that's exactly what that meant.
Mm.
And I always say there's a difference between arrogance and assuredness. There's
Mm-hmm.
two totally different things. And I was assured because my mother stayed home and taught us very well grammar and read and write. That was
Yeah.
intentional as well. So hell yes, I should be able to read and write my name. I was invested
Mm-hmm.
in. Right. There's nothing arrogant about that. I shouldn't have to make myself small to make other people feel big, nor my place. What are we talking about? Right.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of that growing up. And I remember prom. I remember, somebody told me I couldn't go to, or not, I couldn't go to prom. It was they couldn't go to prom with me because I was black, But there's a whole bunch of stuff.
Mm.
Anyway, I would say, and then there was, young parents growing up together. Young parents and young children, and that was fascinating at times. Like I said, I had a very good childhood. That said, there was up and downs like anybody else's household. And so I was searching for self a lot of times. I played a little football. My dad played football, played a little tennis, played a little basketball, but I wrote poetry. I like debate.
Mm.
So there was a lot of stuff going on, and I was just trying to find my place. And a lot of that was pushing through a lot to achieve,
Yeah.
to achieve. And with that, and I did early and many times actually. And with that comes overlooking some healing some wounds.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so I know that during that 7 years, I think it was during the 7 years of fog that you mentioned, you went through bankruptcy, or you filed bankruptcy. What kind of led to that, and how did you come out of that?
Yeah, I had a condo at the time, and I lived in mid Atlantic, but then I still have my condo in Houston. And here's again, folks, they read my book or hear me speak sometime. It goes over some folks' heads sometimes. Like that didn't make any sense. I'm like, yeah, it made complete sense. You just didn't listen to it right. And
Mm.
when I say life and money alignment gives money assignments, okay, when during that time when I lost my home, I was using money from my person that was renting the house. She used to pay me in 6 month chunks. You couldn't
Mm.
you couldn't ask for a better person
Yeah.
to occupy. Oh my goodness. And when I said I was searching for that life and money alignment during that time, that understanding of self, well, had that been aligned, well, I would have used that money to place right back into the home, right? To give it assignment.
Mm.
It's very much easy. All right. That said, during that time, I was using that money to self-medicate and just squander down the drain. And that's a prime example of life and money misalignment and non-assignment,
Yeah.
because that had nothing to do with my aspirational life. My aspirational life, yes, what part of it financially, I could have kept that asset, and it's worth money now. All right. So when you talk
Mm.
about lost opportunity, it's not only lost opportunity personally. Well, there's a line item to that condo right now. I've been on that. That was 16 some odd years ago, 16, 18, 20 years ago, 20 years ago, at least.
Mm.
So I lost on that. So that's where self-care and a lot of things, actually, as far as purpose, boldness, being courageous, and creating a life that you want, and assigning money to those aspects, everything does have a cost. And that's just an example of one.
Yeah. I mean, I think that a lot of people struggle with all the things that you've talked about today. And so I'm wondering what finally brought you out of that 7 years? What motivated you to realize I need to stop spending and self-medicating? I need to get these things in alignment. How did you get the financial life and the emotional life in harmony?
Yeah, sometimes the old adage, you just get sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Mm.
And I know I say that lightly. That said, there came a time to where it was either for in my situation, it was either keep doing what I'm doing and die, or if I wanted something else, which I did very much so, then there was a emergency audit, an emergency action, and I knew it was going to be some time, but there was no other choice. Number one was to stop doing what I was doing, how
Mm.
hard as it was going to be, and then start doing what I wanted to do. And the first part of that was admitting where I was in life. And then the second part is the process was acknowledging how I feel about that. And that's shame, guilt, regret, and processing that. And it took a few years. All right. That a lot of people like to skip over that stuff and
Yeah, right.
and podcasts and everything like that. They like to say, oh yeah, so I just I looked in the mirror, I jumped up and decided I didn't want to do it there. And it's a choice. It's a choice, and then it's like, then I made, $500,000, now I'm making 2 million. It, it's not that easy, you know, and it does. It was work, and it was difficult at
Yeah.
times, but highly necessary, because for me, there was no alternative. There was no
Mm.
alternative. The alternative was the grave, period.
Mm. What
You
were
know,
some of the tools that you used though to get out of, work through that tough period and get some alignment? I mean, did you go to therapy? Did you have, I mean, was it like a support system of folks, mentors and family that helped you, or I don't know.
yes, yes, there was a combination of all that. I had some, and some of them get shouted out in the book, although they're what they did is not in the book, but their names, I call them out by name, and
Mm.
and and during that time, this is where I say emphatically in the book that money buys happiness. Money buys happy. Period. End of story. And I'm sure folks are, well, advisors would be, but even folks that are commonly read. But there's a study that says 75,000 is not that much happiness after that. And I was like, you know what? Put me in that study and let me try that out. Yeah, let me try that out. Give me $250,000 and see if I can get a little bit more happier, right? And then there's the second story was two people came together and did a study and found out that happiness is beyond 500,000 and beyond. right? And
Mm.
it doesn't decrease over time. That said, a finding of the study is that if somebody is maladjusted, if you're just your well-being is off-centered, and you're an unwell person, so to speak, in any type of category, then no amount of money is going to help you. That said, if you have done the work to understand oneself, and understand what's going to bring you fulfillment, bring you purpose, bring you just happiness and utility. What brings you utility? And utility is well-being, and that could be anything. That could be a big TV, far as I care. If you watch football, it doesn't matter. What Everybody's different, and and one of those domains is health. So, for my example, once you understand what's going to bring you that fulfillment, that utility, that well-being, that happiness, then you can buy more units of it with your money. Okay.
Mm.
So life and money alignment gives money assignment. Now you can assign your money in order to buy units of, and I just put this in quotes, happiness, which is well-being, utility, all this, right? Same. All right. What's going to bring you a wholeness return on your life. Then you can buy more units of it. So back to your question, what I had money. I did fairly well, in a couple of my positions, and I had money at my fingertips, thank goodness. And what I wanted to do was I aspired to get myself together internally and
Mm.
seek help. Now my dollars were assigned to better well-being. All
Mm.
right. I did not feel well. I was not well.
Yeah.
Okay. But I was able to invest my dollars into professional help. You know, I was able to invest my dollars into paying back my family.
Mm.
Okay. And that made me feel more well. That's called happiness. Now, that's not pie in the sky happiness, like, floating in the sky. But am I better off? Did I feel better and happier from the point that I was? Absolutely. Now when I was going through it, someone would say, well, yeah, well, you're still not healed. I said, well, I'm better than what I was.
Yeah. It's a
Yeah.
process, right?
And without money, okay, which I always say that wealth and well-being are two different aspects. And I know, like, folks today like to say, okay, well, I want more time, I want more experiences with my family, I wanted more charitable efforts, I want more legacy. Okay, those are all well-being domains.
Mm.
Okay, that's not wealth. Wealth is dollars.
Yeah.
And when you're investing in your well-being domains, you're using your dollars. So it's wealth and well-being, which allows you to flourish. And I was using my dollars in order to invest in areas at that time, where I needed it in order to have a happier outcome.
Yeah. Well, I love this because just really getting to know you in a just a deeper way. And I know that these are definitely some issues that you address in the book for a wider audience. I mean, I think, even just some of the talking points that you brought up are things that you write about. I mean, tell us, what's the book about? What inspired you to write it?
What we're talking about now. So I appreciate you asking, because I wanted folks to experience which is what I went through, and everybody can go through, and not necessarily just starting from trial, by the way. And I mentioned this in the book because money doesn't always have to be anxiety, worry, guilt, shame. All right. It doesn't always have to start there. However, it does have to start to where, if you're not where you want to be, get through what you have to get through so you can go to where you want to go. And that could be with an abundance of money or without. It's just your starting place is just different. I have clients that say, okay, well, yeah, I've got a couple, 2, 3, 4, $5 million. I don't know where it's going. I don't know if who I'm going to leave it to. And I don't think my children are going to get along if I leave it incorrectly. All right. I don't know what I'm going to do next. I don't, my spouse and I, we've been living professionally for 15 or 20 years. How's that going to look when we're in the same house and have to look at each other for more hours of the day? I mean, so my point about that is that there's everybody's in their unique position to transform themselves, their life and money, align it the way they want, what they value most, and then invest in that without, not only if you get past the internal shame or guilt judgment, okay, then you have externally social norms like, oh, money doesn't buy happiness, or yeah, it's it's the whole money issue where you just can't say, oh, I want to go earn more dollars. Yeah, of course. If you're not where you want to be, then it's okay to go say, hey, listen, yes, I want more money.
Mm,
But these folks are like, oh, well, you're just out there for the money, or you're just living there for the money. Then you're maladjusted. You have a self-worth problem. I didn't say that, and it doesn't apply to you either. Yes, if you haven't reached your definition of enough, then it's okay to say, yes, I want more money. And these transforming your life and finances. What are your aspirations, Diana? What is it that you want to do truly? And if you have a sense of wellness and you're blessed and you're a good spot, or even if you're not in a very well spot, then not should, it's you're in a place to where now you can say, this is what I don't want to do, this is what I do want to do. Now I'm going to align my life and money, and I'm going to invest in it. And this is what
mm,
I wanted for folks. I wanted folks to say, I'm ready to transform my life and finances. I'm ready to transition it to what's next. How
mm.
do I do it? And how do I partner with my money in order to do it? Right.
Yeah.
Without some, and pushing back on some, parroting that's out there, and particularly coming from perhaps, advisors or influencers, even though some people ask it, like, but Dr. Cherry, aren't you both of those? And I'm like, well, yes. And this is one of the things academia. And these are the ones this is some of the aspects that I want to introduce in the book and say, okay, you may have heard this before. Let me put it all together for you and not interpret it, just be interpreter. I don't want to interpret it differently just to be different, Diana. I want to interpret it in a way that it makes sense, and 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 see another perspective of it and say, oh, okay, if somebody reads the book, I can relate to that. And if they don't want to
Mm,
relate to it, put the book down. But I also want to just say, oh, somebody say, I've been waiting for somebody to say it like this because I've been thinking it like this. And it has some theoretical, academic theoretical background and some data to back it up. It's a lot of my points. Yes, they're anecdotal, but they are, first of all, 18 years of experience,
yeah.
professor, PhD, and I put some theory and some evidence behind it as well. And then I'm translating it in a way that people can relate and say, I can use this too.
Yeah. I think we can all agree you're wise beyond your years, and we could all get something out of reading the book. And I know you recently wrote a blog post, and here's just a little quote from it. As professionals and public personas responsible for serving the well-being of others, we can't ask people to courageously walk through a process of prosperity without doing the work ourselves. And I think I know what you're alluding to there. But, I've always said on this podcast, the best therapists have been to therapy themselves. And so I'm wondering, how do you think advisors can put this into practice? And what did your own journey teach you about having empathy and compassion with your clients?
Yes. And to be clear, financial therapists are not clinical therapists. They practice the humanity of money through using therapeutic frameworks. So I always like to put that out there because financial therapy is so popular now.
Yeah.
I'd like to put that out there, that we're not clinically diagnosing folks, but we are using their frameworks in order to help people with their money and how they think, feel, and behave about money. Secondly, I would say that some people go too far with eating your own cooking. It's like, if you don't do this, then we won't believe you, or that type of thing. That said, just for my own sake, when this is what maybe chapter 1 was about. It
Mm,
was, I wanted to say that, hey, I've been there, I've been there, I've done it. And if you're going through something like this, or I guess large peaks, very high peaks, I've dealt with a lot of success, and you can move on from there, or low troughs, and you could try to recover from there and make it. So either way, I just wanted to share that transformation and transition is possible. And I'm not just speaking from, willy-nilly. And even when that's clients and students, because I'm speaking to a lot of folks here, because I love saying I'm moving the human condition through financial advice and education. Mm-hmm. And when young people say, well, Dr. Cherry, you're a PhD, and you were able to afford college and you had all this opportunity. What about us first gen folks, or what about these folks, all the check the box folk? Because I'm considered check the box folks, even though I don't like the term. Yeah. Well, they were like, you don't know about our experience. I'm like, well, yes, and let me show you. Not to show you up, no, but to demonstrate that I do understand, and I empathize, and I have compassion to high successes and low lows, and even just the path of going through life. Mm-hmm. So now that I've demonstrated that I don't know what you've gone through specifically, but I can say that I've been through a little bit, and now if you're ready to grab a hold of your aspirational life, either it be now, young folks, Gen X, pre-retiree, retiree, then you can do it too. And I'm not just saying that as a rah-rah speech. Here's how to do it. Mm-hmm. Right. And so this is why I that was chapter, the introduction to chapter, actually the introduction, and the rest was, and that was all that chapter 1 was for. It wasn't to shine the light on me, Diane. It was just to say, hey, let's connect, and then let's use the rest of the book to focus on you, and so you can grab hold of your transition and transformation. And that's what it was all about.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Were you going to add something else? I interrupted you.
Oh no, I was just I was just going to say that that's about showing and demonstrating, even as an advisor, as an educator, as a human being. All right, and I got more work to do. I'm not sitting here saying I got it all figured out. I've been through enough to say this is where I am right now, and this is where you are right now, and let's continue to grow and not go backwards.
Yeah, well, I think that connecting as human beings and being just open and honest about what we've been through I think the industry needs a lot more of that. And so thank you so much for that. And I think I'm afraid we're about just out of time, but I'd like to thank my guest, Dr. Preston Cherry, for being on the podcast and sharing his story with me. Dr. Cherry, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Diane. I appreciate it.
And if you'd like to reach out to him, you can go to his website, drprestoncherry.com, or concurrentfp.com is his firm's website. You can connect with him there and find information about the new book. And if you have a struggle yourself and you wish to share your experiences and help others in similar situations, please feel free to reach out to me at diana.britton@informa.com. I'd like to thank you for listening to The Healthy Advisor. If you've not subscribed to the podcast yet, please click the subscribe now button below. This is Diana Britton reminding you that where there's healing, there is hope. We'll see you next time. Thank you for listening to The Healthy Advisor, a podcast focused on advisors' personal well-being and healing. Click the subscribe button below to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of WealthManagement.com. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional advice. Always seek the advice of your healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding your particular situation.